Have you ever sat in your favorite spot, maybe with something warm beside you, and wondered, do my children ever think about me as much as I think about them? Maybe you've looked at old photos or remembered a time when your kids used to call just to say hello or show up with a surprise visit, and now it's quiet. Not angry, not bitter, just quiet. It's not that there was a big argument or falling out. Life just got busy. They moved away, started families of their own, and suddenly there's more silence than conversation. As a parent, that kind of distance can be confusing, sometimes painful. You start to wonder, did I do something wrong? Did I not do enough? But here's the truth, and it's something I want you to hold on to as we talk today. Just because your children have grown apart doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they don't want to reconnect. In fact, more often than not, the signs are already there. You just have to know how to recognize them. That's what we're going to talk about together today. If you've ever found yourself hoping for a closer relationship with your kids again, one filled with warmth, mutual respect, and genuine connection, then this conversation is for you. We're going to gently uncover the subtle, often overlooked ways your children might be trying to find their way back to you, even if they don't quite know how to say it out loud. So let's settle in. And let's start with one of the most surprising signs. Have you noticed your child suddenly reaches out with a random message, maybe late in the evening or out of the blue? Something like, "Hey Mom, do you remember that pie you used to bake?" Or, "Dad, I was driving past our old street and thought of you." It seems small, just a comment, a fleeting thought. But I want you to understand what's really happening here. That's not just nostalgia. That's a soft knock at the door of reconnection. You see, people often don't know how to come right out and say, "I miss you," especially adult children. Pride gets in the way. Guilt sometimes creeps in. They might feel embarrassed that they've let too much time go by, or they don't know how you'll respond. So instead of saying, "I want to come back into your life," they send little signals, testing the waters, a memory, a shared joke, a recipe. It's their way of reaching across the silence without making it feel too risky. When you get these messages, your instinct might be to respond politely, quickly, and move on. But I'd encourage you to pause, lean into it. Ask a follow-up question, share a memory of your own, keep the thread going. Because in that moment, your child isn't just making small talk, they're opening a door. Now let's say this happens again. Maybe a week or two later, they call to ask about something they could have easily Googled. "Hey, what's that stew you used to make in the winter?" Or, "Do you still have that old lamp in the garage?" It might seem like a practical question, but underneath, it's another quiet effort to create contact. Why not just look it up? Why not ask someone else? Because deep down, they want a reason to talk to you, but they're not sure if they're allowed back in just yet. So they make it feel casual, safe. They're hoping you'll respond with kindness, not distance. Now this might sound familiar to you already. Maybe it's happened recently and you brushed it off. That's okay. We're not here to judge what's been done. We're here to gently change what can happen next. Another sign that often goes unnoticed is how your children show up, physically or digitally, in your space more often. Maybe they suddenly like your Facebook posts again after months of silence, or they drop a comment under a picture with a little heart emoji or a laugh. Maybe they send you a funny meme or a video of a cat doing something silly. You smile, maybe chuckle a little, but you think, why are they sending this now? Because they want to reconnect, but they're afraid to go deep too fast. So they send light-hearted, no-pressure touches. Think of it as them saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm thinking of you." They might not be ready for a heart-to-heart, but they're testing if your door is still open. And here's the most beautiful part. Many times it is. You just didn't realize they were standing outside. But let me share something important here. Sometimes they're waiting for a sign from you too, just as much as you're waiting for one from them. They might be hoping you'll say, "That made me smile," or "I love when you send these things," so they know it's safe to keep going. Don't underestimate the power of a simple, warm response. It tells them, without pressure or drama, "You're welcome here." And there's something else too. It can be easy to feel like we need a grand gesture, a long phone call, a big visit, a deep apology, to make things feel meaningful. But the truth is, relationships are rarely rebuilt in one big moment. They come back to life through small steps, quiet signals, tiny conversations that grow into something more. A text message becomes a call becomes a visit becomes a tradition. If your child suddenly brings up an old routine, "Remember how we used to watch that show every Friday?" Or, "I saw someone playing cards like we used to do," don't shrug it off. That memory isn't random. It's another signal. They're not just remembering the past, they're testing if there's space for that warmth to return. And yes, sometimes you might feel a little cautious. You might think, "But what if I get hopeful and then they disappear again?" That's a fair feeling. You've likely been through a lot. But here's the thing. When we lead with openness and patience, without clinging or demanding, we give the other person a reason to stay. It doesn't mean you have to carry the whole relationship on your shoulders. It means you simply leave the door unlocked, just enough for love to find its way back in. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You don't need to overthink every message. But you do need to recognize the signs when they come. Because they're often small, quiet, and easily missed. But they matter. They mean something. They mean your child is looking back, and maybe, just maybe, trying to move forward with you again. So the next time your phone buzzes with a small message that stirs a memory, pause, breathe, read between the lines. There's often more love there than you think. Sometimes the clearest signs don't come through words or messages at all. They show up in actions, subtle, quiet gestures that carry more weight than most people realize. Maybe your child starts showing interest in things you care about. You mention a new hobby, or maybe you talk about a show you've been watching, and suddenly they're asking follow-up questions. "Oh, really? What's that show about?" Or, "You've been painting? Can I see something you made?" On the surface, it sounds like casual curiosity. But beneath that, there's something deeper happening. That's them reaching into your world again. That's them saying, "Tell me more about you. I want to be part of your life again." It might not happen all at once, and that's okay. A relationship doesn't need to roar back like a wildfire. Sometimes the slowest burning embers are the ones that last the longest. When your child starts taking small steps to understand your world, to learn about your interests, your routines, your thoughts, they're extending a bridge. They may not always have the words to say, "I miss being close to you," but they can show it through effort. And effort, at any age, is a form of love. Now here's something many parents overlook. Sometimes your child might bring up the past, not the good memories, but the difficult ones. Maybe they reference something that didn't go well. A moment of tension, a time they pulled away, and it catches you off guard. You might feel defensive at first or unsure how to respond. But here's what I want you to hear. When your child brings up a hard memory, it's often not to reopen old wounds. It's to begin the healing. If they're willing to talk about what happened, that means they care enough to process it with you. They're saying, in their own way, "This mattered to me. You mattered to me. I don't want this to be a wall between us anymore." And if they're not blaming you but simply naming something that hurt them or confused them, take a breath. Let the silence sit for a second. Then respond with calm and care. You don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes, a simple, "I hear you," is the beginning of something beautiful. What happens next is often the turning point. When you meet their vulnerability with gentleness, you're showing them that your love is strong enough to hold even the uncomfortable things. That's when walls start to come down. That's when true reconnection can take root. It's also worth paying attention to how your child includes you in their everyday life. Not just with big events like birthdays or holidays, but the small things. Do they send you a photo of their dog doing something silly? Or tell you what their child, your grandchild, said at dinner last night? These may seem like passing details, but these little windows into their world are precious. When they start inviting you into those moments, what they're really saying is, I want you to be part of my life again, not just in the big ways, but in the little ones too. And you don't have to wait for them to show up at your doorstep with a dramatic apology or a long letter. That's the movies. Real life is different. Real life is softer, quieter. It's a child texting a photo of the sunrise they saw that reminded them of the walks you used to take together. It's them asking, do you remember the way you used to pack my lunch? Or them telling you they made your soup recipe, and suddenly, for just a second, you're back in their kitchen again. But I want to say something here that's very important. Even if you recognize all these signs, it's okay to feel cautious. You might have been hurt before. You might have tried reaching out in the past and felt ignored or brushed off. And those wounds don't just disappear overnight. You don't need to forget those feelings, but you do need to stay open. There's a difference between being guarded and being closed. When your heart is guarded, you're protecting it with wisdom. When it's closed, you're locking it away completely. And love can't come through locked doors. So give yourself permission to feel everything: hope, nervousness, excitement, even a little doubt. That's natural. It means you're still human, still open to connection. Just remember that reconnection takes two people moving toward each other, step by step. You don't have to do all the work. But you can choose to respond when someone reaches for your hand. And sometimes, the most surprising sign of reconnection comes not from what your child says or does, but from how they treat you in front of others. Maybe they used to avoid mentioning you in conversation or didn't invite you to gatherings, and now suddenly, they're including you again. Introducing you to friends, mentioning you in social posts, even asking for advice on things they used to keep private. This change isn't just polite, it's purposeful. They're reestablishing you as someone who matters, someone they respect. And often that kind of public inclusion is their way of saying, I want people to know you're important to me again. It might feel subtle, but make no mistake, it's one of the clearest signs that the distance is shrinking. When your child starts making room for you, not just in their heart, but in their world, you know that healing is happening. And through all of this, I want you to remember something. The fact that you're watching this, listening carefully, holding on to hope, it means you still care. And that matters. That makes a difference. There's a quiet strength in being the one who remains open, the one who chooses love over pride, the one who sees not just what was lost, but what could still be found. Rebuilding a connection with your child doesn't mean going back to how things used to be. It means creating something new, something wiser, more patient, and more lasting. It means meeting each other as adults, with all the life you've both lived. It means recognizing that while time may have changed the relationship, it hasn't erased the bond. And bonds, especially between parent and child, have a way of finding their way home. It's a beautiful thing when a child begins to open the door again. And yet, sometimes, the most touching sign of reconnection isn't in what they do, but in what they ask. Maybe your son calls and asks for your advice on something simple: how to cook a roast, what to say during a job negotiation, or even what kind of car to buy. Or your daughter calls and asks, what would you do if your friend said this? These questions might sound practical on the surface, but underneath they carry something much deeper. They mean, I still value your wisdom. I still trust your voice. Asking for your opinion is one of the most natural ways adult children try to bridge the gap. It's a way to say, I'm thinking of you, without having to say the words. It's a quiet form of respect, a signal that they still see you as someone who matters, someone whose guidance is welcome in their life. And it can catch you off guard, especially if it's been a while since they turned to you for anything. But instead of wondering why now or second-guessing their motives, take a breath and give them your time. Let them know that your wisdom didn't go anywhere, and neither did your heart. This might be the first real step in building something new between you. It's in these ordinary moments that extraordinary healing often begins. Sometimes children who are trying to reconnect also begin to share more of themselves than they used to. You might notice that a child who used to give short answers suddenly lingers on the phone a little longer. Or they start opening up about work stress, family life, or feelings they never shared before. Maybe they even tell you things you didn't expect to hear, about regrets they carry, choices they've made, or how they wish things had gone differently between you. And when that happens, let me tell you this: you are standing in sacred space. Because for an adult child to show vulnerability with a parent, especially after distance or silence, takes courage. It means they trust you again. It means they feel safe enough to be real. You don't need to fix everything or give perfect advice. You just need to listen, fully, quietly, without rushing to fill the space. Sometimes, the most powerful way to love someone is simply to let them speak and be heard. Now, it's worth saying this too: not all signs of reconnection will be consistent. There might be a few steps forward and then a step back. That doesn't mean the relationship is broken again. It just means healing is a process. Sometimes your child may reach out and then pull away again. Don't take it as rejection. Think of it as a dance. They're trying to figure out how close they can get without losing themselves, and you're doing the same. Keep showing up with grace. Be steady, but don't chase. Be kind, but don't cling. Let the relationship find its new rhythm, one that honors both your growth and theirs. And don't forget, sometimes children reconnect through action, not words. They may not say, "I'm sorry for drifting away," or "I miss you." Instead, they might fix something around your house. They might send you groceries, or drive you to an appointment, or bring your favorite pie over without explanation. When they show love this way, it's not because they don't care enough to say it out loud. It's because sometimes love just comes out in doing. Some people express affection through presence, support, and help, not long conversations. If your child is showing up in these quiet, steady ways, even without big emotional declarations, believe them. That's real. That's love, too. And here's something I truly hope you'll remember. Reconnection doesn't require perfection. You don't have to solve every old argument. You don't have to become the picture-perfect family. You just need to rebuild a little space for each other to belong. A space where there's room for new memories, forgiveness, and kindness. Because even if you never hear the exact words you hoped for, even if there are parts of the past that remain unresolved, you can still move forward in peace. You can still create something honest and meaningful, right here, right now. This isn't about pretending the pain never happened. It's about choosing to love again anyway. Choosing to believe that hearts can grow back toward one another, even after seasons apart. And yes, this takes patience. It takes grace. It takes the kind of quiet strength that so many in your generation carry so well. The strength to keep your door open without fear, to love without keeping score, to be willing to give your child a fresh chance, not for who they were, but for who they're trying to become. You may have done the hard work of raising them. Now, the work is about letting them know that they can return, not to childhood, not to the past, but to you, to connection, to understanding, and to a future with more laughter, more visits, more "I love you" moments that no longer go unsaid. If you've seen any of these signs, if your child is reaching out, even in small ways, know this: you are not forgotten, you are not alone. You are still needed, still loved, still the anchor that holds the roots of your family together. And if you haven't seen those signs yet, don't lose heart. Sometimes love takes the long way around, but it still finds its way home. There is something deeply powerful about your presence, your patience, your decision to keep loving even when it's hard. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's the kind of strength that bridges generations. So, as we close this conversation, I want to leave you with this. Your story is still unfolding. Your family's story is still unfolding. And every day, there's a new opportunity for closeness, for warmth, for healing. If you found something helpful here today, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else walking the same path. And if this message touched your heart, give the video a like and consider subscribing to Strong Elderly Life. We're here to support you with more conversations that bring comfort, clarity, and connection. You've done so much for your children. Now, let them do the work of finding their way back to you. And in the meantime, here's to living your best life. One full of grace, wisdom, and the quiet joy of love returning home.